Sto facendo col telefono. Chiudiamo.
Ok, Gemma, on peut commencer quand tu veux.
So thank you so much, Pascale. Thank you to the colleagues who accepted to intervene in this webinar and to all the participants. This is the second webinar Pascale, Ricard, and he organized in the framework of a fruitful memorandum of understanding among our respective institutions, the Institute for International Legal Studies of CNR and the Laboratoire Droit International Comparé Européen of Aix-Marseille University, recently signed to enhance scientific cooperation in the field of mainly marine environmental protection, maritime spatial planning, blue economy, and other domains. So in the framework of this cooperation, we have this idea of
Yeah, I think we lost Gemma.
Do you hear me now?
Now we hear you, yes. Not anymore, but okay, we will see. If it doesn't work, I will present this idea to work together. Also in the context of the development for Gemma and in Italy, and she will talk about it better than me, but the context of the development, of an agency of biodiversity. She's trying to reach me. And in France, we also are developing activities in the context of the Institut Sciences de l'Océan, Science of the Ocean. So it's a pluridisciplinary institute, and we are trying to develop in Aix-Marseille University the activities dealing with the oceans in general. As regards the specific context of this webinar, so marine spatial planning and marine protected areas and the challenges around their interplay, we are going to talk about this marine spatial planning or maritime spatial planning. I don't know the best expression to use, dealing with the European Directive of 2014. This European Directive of 2014 establishes the general framework for the development of marine spatial planning in European waters and also in the Mediterranean Sea for European countries. The idea of marine spatial planning, especially the objectives of this marine spatial planning, are first of all sustainable development, of course, and the blue economy, so a very economical point of view, and all of this while at the same time achieving the good environment status of the 2008 directive of the European Union. So the idea is to organize, allocate space, and try to combine everything, to combine the economic and the ecological objectives in a context in which more and more activities are developing at sea. So how this marine spatial planning is fitting with marine protected areas that are developed at the same time. I guess marine protected areas are part of marine spatial planning because they are developed in this context, but yes, is it always compatible, or is there sometimes some challenges, some interplay complex to manage? We are also in a context of an ecological emergency with a new objective developed in the context of the CBD, the Convention on Biological Diversity, to develop 30% of maritime space and terrestrial space as marine protected areas. But the Convention of Biodiversity doesn't really define the level of protection, the definition of this protection. Is it strict protection or not? And probably you will talk about it after. So yes, we will try to understand how both processes, marine spatial planning and marine protected areas, are implemented, and especially in the Mediterranean Sea by France and Italy, and also how those states are collaborating with each other, and what are the challenges as regards this implementation. So I hope this short introduction was clear enough. Sorry for the elements that wasn't planned, that Gemma couldn't reach us anymore. But we will continue this general discussion. First, I will give the floor to Olivier Laroussinie. He works at the technical direction of Risques-EauMer of the Cerema in France. Then it's André Grosset who will talk to us about especially the Natura 2000 network. He works at the Préfecture Maritime de la Méditerranée, Maritime Prefecture of Méditerranée. And then for the Italian side, we will have Andrea Barbanti, who is a researcher at the ISMAR CNR, and Costanza Favilli, who works at the Permanent Secretariat of the Pelagos Agreement. So we will have very diverse and rich feedback on your field experience. So we are really thankful for you to take your time, and don't hesitate to take questions, to ask questions in the chat. We will take them afterwards. So we will have a first round table like this, and then we will with more precise question, we will do a second round table and also answer to your question. Thank you so much. I give you the floor, Olivier.
Thank you, Pascale. So I can share my screen. Yes, no problem. Is it okay for you? You can see it?
Yes.
Okay, good. So, well, I am working at Cerema, but I have to say that I am the former director of the MPA agency in France. And after that, and before going to Cerema, I spent a few years at the ministry in charge of the sea and responsible for maritime spatial planning. So, well, it's how I'm just giving the experience I have. And well, when talking about the topic, I put first a general chronicle of what happened. Everything in blue is about MPAs, and in orange about MSP. And so you understand that we were very active about marine protected areas first, and then having the first round of maritime spatial planning, while somehow everything was already done for MPAs. But at the end, you need marine spatial planning for MPAs because there is still this question of strictly protected areas that was not solved working only on marine protected areas, but I will give some explanation. So in 2005, the national biodiversity strategy, the first one, had a marine plan, action plan. And what was said at the moment is that there was nothing at sea, no protected areas, no marine protected areas. And so there has been quite a big hurry up to do something. And if I look at the first MPA strategy for the Mediterranean in 2007, the plan was to first develop Natura 2000 at sea, and it's all the black triangle and red circles that were the possible areas where you will have to find something to designate as Natura 2000 sites, triangle being for Habitat Directive and red circle for the Birds Directive. But there was also two projects of national parks, one in Marseille, Les Calanques, at the moment, and it was said that, okay, you do a national park, but we need a huge marine area in the national park. So it will be one big marine protected areas inside the national park with terrestrial and marine parts. And in Porquerolles, which is the oldest national park in France, the project was to extend the national park to another island, Porquerolles, and again, it was said, yes, do it, but we need a marine area. And so these two parks was part of the strategy. The action plan said we need a new status for MPAs, marine nature parks, adapted to the sea and its special governance. And the plan was to have 10 parks within 10 years. And one of them, the project was in near the frontier in the Gulf of Lion, near the frontier with Spain. And so it was under study at the moment. And around Corsica, there was so much issue that it was said we need a special analysis and strategy for MPAs around Corsica. So that was the first strategy. And somehow it was already some marine spatial planning approach. And Pascale, I say marine spatial planning, I don't say maritime. I would say the difference perhaps is the focus you put on activities. When you say maritime, it sounds really like activities. So at the moment it was about MPA, so it was marine spatial planning, I would say. And we tried, you see the synthesis map that was made at the moment, and you see they are not really maps, they are pictures. And because we were not so sure about the information we had, but we wanted to know about natural heritage, about ecosystem functioning, and about activities and users. And one conclusion was we need data. We really are in need of data, and two main campaigns were launched, one about canyons. There was dots for Natura 2000 on the continental shelf limit, and but we had quite no data to say where it was important to have some protection. So a systematic inventory of all canyons have been made. So you see all the boxes of the campaign, and for one box, the first one in the west, you can see that it was a campaign with a submarine doing some horizontal exploration, and then a ROV to do some vertical systematic inventory. So quite a huge campaign during 2 years to have data about the canyons. And the second one about megafauna using aerial survey. So quite a huge campaign too. And from that we had, of course, additional data, probably still not enough, but much more, thanks to this movement about MPAs. And if I show you the synthesis we have at the moment when we are doing maritime spatial planning in 2019, you see that it's much more precise, and there is much more data behind that. In the strategy, MPA strategy, I said that there was a regional strategy for Corsica that was asked for. And of course, when you do the same approach with 3 thematics, information is much better, much more precise about natural heritage, about ecosystem functioning, and about the different activities. So I won't detail it because we don't have time. And in this experience showed that it was important to have a cooperation between state and regional authority. The regional authorities, because it was co-elaborated, this regional strategy, and you know, in French and in Corsican even. So, and some conclusions that were driven from this exercise was to set up a marine nature park in the Cape of Corsica, Agriat, and it was made. It is created now, and also to extend 1 natural reserve, and some focus also was put on the project of International Marine Park in the Bonifacio Strait. So the resulting MPA network, I show you this map, including a part of Italy because of Pelagos. It's not because it's French, it's because it's a common MPA. You see, it's there is quite a lot. Of course, mainly Natura 2000 and this marine nature park. So now perhaps we have to make a difference between the different types of MPAs, because well, only in France, at least, only parks and reserves are area management. Natura 2000 is okay, you have a site, but it's an action plan for certain species and habitats. It's not management of the area. You are not entitled to look at all what is happening in the area delimited in the Natura 2000 site. On the contrary, in national parks, marine nature parks, and nature reserve, there is a management committee, there is an authority that have to be involved in all decision made and all what happened in and somehow it's very important in terms of maritime spatial planning too. Perhaps a few words about the marine nature park. I said we had to invent a new status because we needed something adapted to the governance at sea. When you create a marine nature park, you just decide the limits of it, who will be in the management committee, and of course it's local governance, and the objectives of the park. And then in the functioning of the park, the management committee will elaborate a management plan. There will be a dedicated team for the park, and it's a French biodiversity agency, which is in charge of that. And the management committee will be giving his opinion about all questions concerning the park. And when it could have some important impact on the marine environment in the park, then you have to follow the advice of the management committees. It's a very powerful tool, and including impacts coming from the land. So if I look only at those national parks, marine nature parks, and nature reserve, it's already occupying quite a big part of the sea basin for France. And if I compare with the vocation map in the maritime spatial planning, of course, the vocation map have different zones, and the parks are fully zones for the maritime spatial planning. Talking about downscaling, again, in the parks, you have a vocation map, but at a different scale. This is the example of the marine nature park of the Gulf of Lion, but you have the same in the Cape Corsica, and in the nature reserve of the Bonifacio Strait. And well, I will finish with 2 challenges, explaining why we now need maritime spatial planning for the next step of marine protected areas. Managing Natura 2000 sites is mainly talking about interaction with activities. And so at the level of the sea basin and not only the site, and that's important that you can include that in what you are doing in maritime spatial planning. And designating 5%, I know the objective is 10%, but there is an intermediate objective in 2027 of 5% of strictly protected areas at sea. And this is quite difficult, you know, to convince people, decision makers, to do that, and it can only be done considering the whole sea basin and a global approach, combining objectives, socio-economical on one part and of strict protection on the other one. But for these two topics, Andre will give you a little bit more information. My conclusion is that, okay, we started with MPAs, but I think it prepared quite well the people that had to do then the maritime spatial planning, and we already put some things on maps and think about organization at spatial, from a spatial point of view. And what we did about MPAs was probably preparing quite well what we had to do afterwards on maritime spatial planning. And some, to finish, thank you for listening, some photos from the Canyon campaign.
Thank you very much. I'm sure we will have a lot of questions. I already have some, but maybe we will first listen to everybody. Otherwise, we will take too much time. So, André Grosset from the Préfecture Maritime de la Méditerranée. I share my screen for you.
Thank you.
It should be all right.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next slide, please. Well, hello, everybody. I'm André Grosset. I'm the head of the Environment Department in Préfecture Maritime. So just as a reminder, I show on this map the overview of the marine protected area in the Mediterranean Sea. So as you see, it's been exposed earlier by Olivier, there are quite numerous MPA in the French Mediterranean Sea, nearly 77 marine protected area, covering 80%, 85% of territorial water. And of course, among these MPA, the natural network, which represent more than 3/4 of the total. Next slide, please. So I would like to focus today on two subjects. First of all, you see on this map what we call the Natura 2000 offshore. These sites are quite specific, and they were designated for coral reef. We have 4 sites designated for this habitat, and we have also 4 sites designed for marine mammals and birds. Like it's been exposed by Olivier, there's been a long various survey to determine scientifically the perimeter of this site. But I would say what we've done here is the first exercise in a maritime spatial planning, because the Préfet Maritime was ordered by the Environment Ministry to organize locally the consultation between the parties, especially fishermen and marine transport, to determine this perimeter. So that's the result of all this work, and it's been quite long because there is an opposition between what the scientific wanted to have and what the parties, the other parties, socio-economic parties, wanted to preserve for their activity. So next slide, please. So the next challenge is to go further and establish new MPA, such as strong protected area. What is a strong protected area? It's an area with strong ecological interest where pressure are limited to ensure sustainable development. And the objective which was done is to cover 5% of water under jurisdiction before 2026, which is quite a lot. And that's why we need to have a strong method and tool to achieve this challenge. So we think that maritime spatial planning is one of these tools which will give us the ability to reach this goal. And finally, next slide. Next project, which is quite recent, is the creation of the particular sea-sensitive area in the Méditerranée. The main objective of this big area is to protect cetaceans from the risk of ship collision. You see that the perimeter is quite large, and so it would be also difficult to establish measures to protect this area. But we guess that our methods, and especially maritime spatial planning, will help us to achieve this other goal. So that's it for me. If you have any question, please do so, and I just give the hand for the next. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Gemma, what do you think? We continue with the Italian examples and then we take all questions?
Yes, I think that would be fine. Thanks.
Okay, so I think it will be first Andrea. And yes, thank you, because it was very clear and we have a good idea of what is happening now in France and what are the challenges. Andrea, Barbanti, no, you should be able to share your screen. Let me know if
yes, thank you, Pascale. I'll try to share the screen now. Okay, here it is. So presentation mode. Okay. Is it okay? Can you see the screen?
Yes.
The slide? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. First of all, thank you again, Pascale and Gemma, for the invitation to be part of this webinar on the interplay between MSP and protected areas. My name is Andrea Barbanti. I work at the National Research Council of Italy, particularly at the Institute of Marine Sciences. And I am, yes, playing with MSP since 10 years now, more or less, thanks to a number of EU and national projects. And since a few years, I have also the pleasure and the responsibility of actually providing technical scientific support to our competent authority on MSP, the Ministry for Infrastructures and Transport, and to the National Technical Committee that is in charge of developing the Italian plans. Okay, after this short presentation, I will start just presenting you in a nutshell with a few words some elements, key elements of our plans. And I'll start informing you on where we are, what is the state of the art of the MSP process in Italy. Presently, we are waiting for the final opinion on the strategic environmental assessment from the National Technical Commission in charge of it. And following this opinion, the plans that have been submitted to a public consultation end of last year should be submitted to the technical committee for the final approval. This is what we expect. So hopefully we are close to the approval of the first plans. Having informed you on where we are, very briefly, Italy is preparing 3 plans on 3 maritime areas: the Adriatic, the Ionian, Central Mediterranean, and the Tyrrhenian Sea. The plans will be our strategic plans, identifying basically vocations for sea uses, including protected areas. The term vocation is really crucial. This is quite typical as an approach of the first plans developed, and the committee decided to actually follow this path. Nevertheless, the plans are going to be legally binding, and so they are meant to integrate and harmonize and let's say address future evolution of all the plans that concern marine uses and marine areas. The plan was been prepared by a joint effort, and this is very, very, very important, very valuable, between all members of the technical committee with our scientific assistance. And I'm referring to 5 ministries under the coordination of the competent authority and 15 maritime regions. And it's quite, I would say, valuable and peculiar to see this effective, in fact, co-planning process that was developed in the last 3 years, at least. This is how the plans in a snapshot look like. You can see the 3 maritime areas, 27 sub-areas, 18 of them are in territorial waters, and 9 of them are offshore. Offshore means ecological protection zone in the Tyrrhenian Sea. It means continental shelf in other areas. We do not have yet fully established exclusive economic zones in Italy. The process is ongoing on this, as you may know, and you see a number of different colors identifying different vocations, uses, according to 4 different types of planning units: generic use, priority, limited, reserved use. What I'd like to highlight here is the fact that, since we are discussing the connection, the interplay with protected areas, that you may see the green color, which identifies vocations for nature and protection of marine resources. And so just to give you a rough idea, the area which is flagged with a priority, limited or restricted use for nature amounts to about 47% of the total area of the planning domain, which is a lot, which is not meaning, and I will be more precise on this, that all these areas will become protected areas, formally speaking. This means, again, vocations toward protections, recognizing that there are specific, in a way or another, environmental values to take into account and to protect in different ways. We are focusing on marine protected areas, but I'd like to emphasize how the topic is broader, and I'd like to highlight how a key concept is the application of ecosystem-based approaches to the overall MSP process, which is more than identifying simply areas where to establish some kind of conservation regimes or measures. And what we tried to do and what we did up to a certain stage, there's a lot of work to do still, but we tried to apply the ecosystem-based approach to the several phases, steps of the plan, from the initial assessment to the identification of interactions between uses and impacts on the environment, to the definition of strategic objectives, which include, of course, objectives related to conservation, and then taking into account all the or most of the environmental, let's say, elements in the strategic planning that was developed, identifying the vocations you have seen for the different planning units. And then finally, we come to the monitoring. That includes the monitoring plan, that includes a number of indicators on sustainability and environmental protection and conservation. And finally, identifying, we've been able to identify, and we stress a lot this, the number of important activities that will need to be carried out in the near future after the approval of the plan to consolidate this ecosystem-based approach. For example, filling some important knowledge gaps we still have on habitats or on impacts, etc. And all this was submitted to the complemented and submitted to the strategic environmental assessment procedure, which is again a key part of the ecosystem-based approach, and the consultation, which is for sure not enough. But again, hopefully after the approval of the plan, a continuous process of engagement, consultation of stakeholders at different level will continue to inform the adaptation process of the plan. Now, MSP and protected areas. I already said that I think it's very important to underline the use of an ecosystem-based approach in all phases of the plans. Then coming directly to protected areas, I'd like to affirm quite clearly that maritime spatial plans, at least in Italy, but I think this is valid overall, do not have the specific task of establishing new protected areas, but should, on the other side, concretely favoring the best possible coherence between protected areas, the expansion of the network of protected areas, so internal coherence and coherence with the number of uses that may be developed inside the protected areas and around the protected areas. So the plan, how can the plan do this? Well, first of all, stating clearly and defining clearly strategic and specific objectives. When I say specific, I mean high resolution to specific areas or to specific planning units, and be aligned with other processes directly addressing the expansion of the protected areas. And I'm referring to the biodiversity strategy 2030 objectives, the pledges that the different countries are preparing and discussing among countries and with the Commission on how and where to extend their network of protected areas. There's an issue which is directly related to protected areas of connection with MSRD. In France, you have a combined process, policy stream. In Italy, we have two different separated policy streams, which poses some, let's say, difficulties, but it's mandatory, and this is what we tried to do during the development of the plans, to combine, harmonize as much as possible MSRD provisions, specifically the ones that are expressed in the program of measures and MSP provisions. I already mentioned the fact that our main tool to promote a coherent, in a large sense, expansion of the network protected areas is to identify vocations. And this is what we did. and this should be in line with MSRD and with the National Biodiversity 2030 process. Not always easy to do, since all processes are kind of, disaligned in time. And one last point I'd like to underline is the fact that there's, protected areas are not a use per se, as landscape and cultural heritage protection is not a use, but it deserves a specific attention. So it deserves and requires to be considered as use to produce a specific zoning of these needs. But it should be considered as a cross-cutting issue, identifying all ways you have to reduce pressures on the environment inside and outside of the protected areas. And again, here MSP can play and plays a very important role. This is a very quick focus on the Tyrrhenian Sea, since it's close, of course, to French marine waters. Just to mention that we, as in the other two areas, try to pay specific attention to environmental, let's say, values, priorities. Of course, the protected area network in place, different types, from Pelagos to national protected areas. We took into account other regulations and so-called, in a way, OECMs, like deep habitats and the ban for trawling beyond 1,000 meters, according to GFCM regulations. All the measures expressed in the program of measure of MSFD, and added to the number of measures that are in place, some specific measures, national scale and sub-area level, sub-area scale, to actually bring added value, reinforce the measures that are in place in line with the vocations and the overall provisions of the plan. Some of them are quite general, others are more, let's say, specific. Always to be kept in mind in a framework that is a strategic framework. This plan is a strategic plan at this stage, not yet that, let's say, prescriptive, as it will be maybe in the second or third round. Then I'd like to spend a few minutes mentioning this project, in fact, which is something that is related to the future, the near future. But the message here is that once we will have the plan in place, and we are close to it, this is a starting point, and we need to work to adapt the plan, improve the plan. And one of the ways, and it's actually the topic of the webinar of today, is to mainstream more biodiversity into the plan, according to the, many drivers. We have policy drivers, economy drivers, societal drivers, etc. We have. And for this, under the umbrella of the National Biodiversity Center that is now established in Italy using Next Generation EU funds, there is this project, which is a 3-year project, that is meant to, starting from the present plan proposal at this stage, to do biodiversity mainstreaming through an integrated, spatially explicit, quantitative, socio-ecological approach. Okay, I will not enter into details. I'm the coordinator of this project, and specifically Gemma is coordinating the work package on the policy analysis. It's really an interdisciplinary effort, very ambitious. And one of the tools we'll be using to inform actually how to adapt the Italian plans in a, let's say, biodiversity perspective is to play with scenarios. This is a powerful tool and is, quite frequently used in MSP practices. We want to build scenarios on some areas from the identification of drivers, definition of the socio-ecological system in place, defining specific objectives, and then spatially identify spatially explicit scenarios corresponding to different trajectories or imaginaries. And so we have the three areas, and one of the three areas we are playing actually already, is the Northern Tyrrhenian Sea, as you see. Then we have the Northern Adriatic and Strait of Sicily. And we will develop and analyze, thanks to the application, the integrated application of a number of decision support tools, we will analyze three different scenarios, imaginaries, if you want, more conservative, more business as usual, or more, let's say, blue economy oriented with a specific focus on and attention to blue uses, to innovative uses, etc. And finally, so this is the perspective. This is something we are working at, just to give you the message that the plan that is now under discussion and hopefully finalization has to be seen, at least from us, which are scientists, as a starting point of something, and not as a final result, let's say, reached. A few take-home messages, not to repeat too much, but just to leave you with some food for thought for the discussion. Well, MSP is as a powerful tool to reconcile blue economy and conservation objectives. It was very evident from the presentations of the colleagues we just heard. But we have to have MSP plans in place, not only in Italy, not yet there, but in all EU countries. And the plans from the different EU countries needs to be kind of coordinated, harmonized, as the directive is asking for. This is a starting point for a continuous adaptive process where we need to have to be able to have MSP and MPA's policy processes co-evolving together and not behaving as parallel or sometimes diverging processes, which is the case actually still. We are working, playing, living in the Mediterranean. In this case, this is a Western Mediterranean webinar. So we need to extend to non-EU countries toward Mediterranean, Western Mediterranean, if you want, MSP framework agenda. And thanks to a number of projects in place and initiatives, this is ongoing. We recently, thanks to the endorsement of the Commission, DG Mare, been able to promote and establish a new community of practice on MSP in the Mediterranean. And this is just a seed to develop this Mediterranean vision that is using MSP to promote sustainable blue economy. We know that there are some key drivers at this stage on the table. And the main key drivers for the MSP process, I think you may agree on this, is offshore renewables. This is valid in the Mediterranean, even if the potentials, the wind potentials we have are not comparable to the ones that are existing in the northern EU sea basins, and then biodiversity strategy objectives, 30%, 10% strictly protected areas. How to do this and how to use MSP to reach these results. Then there are a number of more, say, technical issues, practical issues, very important. For example, how to use OECMs and how to use, the different level of protection or conservation measures we have in our toolbox to reach these objectives. Which measures then to apply to the number of uses inside, and I stress this point, outside protected areas as well. How to clearly identify sea uses that can be carried out within MPAs. This is a big, very important issue that is being analyzed thanks to a number of projects and initiatives and within the different MSP plan processes. And finally, already said by the colleagues, need to use socio-ecological approaches, where we combine effectively the environmental, let's say, expertise with other types of expertise, social sciences, economic sciences, policy sciences, because this is what we need, is needed to reach our goal, in fact. Okay, thank you very much, and Pascale, back to you, and I'm available for the questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm sure we will have a lot of questions, and it's very interesting to have both examples together, so we can try to compare, and maybe we will talk a bit about cooperation. Is there a cooperation between France and Italy or not after? But I will give the floor to Costanza for the last presentation. You should be able to share your screen also.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay. Can you see the screen? My screen?
Yes, maybe you can
Okay.
just put in full screen. But...
Is that fine for you? Oh, sorry for that. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we see it. We don't have a full screen.
Okay.
Small, but we see your screen.
Okay, I don't know why. Anyway, I would like just to raise a point of clarification about, yes, my presentation. I do not represent just Italy, but as the executive secretary of the Pelagos Agreement, I do represent France, Italy, and Monaco. Sorry for that, but it is to the parties. So I am Italian, but I have the Italian citizenship, but yeah, I do represent the three countries. So I would like to thank Dr. Gemma Andreone and Dr. Pascale Ricard for their kind invitation to this webinar today. I am Costanza Favilli. My name is Costanza Favilli, the Executive Secretary of the Pelagos Agreement. So here we have the first slides. Okay, so the Pelagos Agreement. The Pelagos Agreement is a multilateral agreement signed between France, Italy, and Monaco in 1999 and entered into force in 2002. And in 2001, it was recognized as a SPAMI, specially protected area of Mediterranean importance by the contracting party of the Barcelona Convention. And the objective of the agreement is to improve conservation of marine mammals by assessing and managing the impact of human uses on species and on their habitats. Therefore, the agreement was written as a precursor of the MSP with a specific aim to ensure the sustainability of activities, particularly in regard to their impacts on marine mammals and their habitats. Contrary to popular belief, the sanctuary is not a marine protected area in strict sense, or according to the laws defining marine protected areas at the national level. But it is an agreement area with a very specific objective. In fact, since marine mammals are umbrella species and relying on various elements of their ecosystem, setting as target their conservation within a region is pretty close to stating that within Pelagos, the three parties wanted to apply an ecosystem-based management via maritime spatial planning, extending their powers to the high seas. In fact, in 1999, when the agreement was signed, within Pelagos, there were ample areas beyond national jurisdiction. No exclusive economic zone nor ecological protection zone were declared.
Costanza, I'm sorry to interrupt you, just to say that your slides are not going on, actually. So we are still looking at the first one.
Oh, thank you, Gemma.
You're welcome.
I don't know why. Can you see my presentation on the screen? No, you're still on the first slide, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I think that
yes,
the best
now,
option
now
is...
now we see the second one, I guess. Yes, now we see the second one.
Okay, sorry for that.
Yeah.
I think that this is the best option. So you can see the slide like that. Sorry for this technical problem. Yeah. So I was saying that the Pelagos Agreement area, the sanctuary, lays at the crossroads between a regional trilateral MSP strategic action plan and being a SPAMI, so a marine protected area. And the Pelagos Agreement shares with the MSP a number of core principles. The first one is the land-sea interactions, because I would say that this is also a fundamental aspect for Pelagos. In fact, the agreement text states that the parties shall adopt national strategies aimed at phasing out discharges of toxic substances into the sanctuary, giving priority to those listed in Annex 1 of the Protocol to the Barcelona Convention for the Protection of the Mediterranean Sea against pollution from land-based sources and activities. The ecosystem-based approach, as I mentioned earlier, focusing the conservation objective on marine mammals automatically covers the whole marine ecosystem. The third point, the coherence between the MSP and other processes, such as integrated coastal management, is something which is established also by the text of the agreement and by the agreement as an international policy tool itself, because it aims to ensure the coherence with all other relevant policies in the Mediterranean and the EU, of course. The fourth point, the involvement of stakeholders. This is fundamental, even more in the frame of the 6-year action plan, the new action plan of the Pelagos Agreement, which is based on the fundamental principle of the cooperation between the parties of the agreement, of course, but also it is based in the co-designation with stakeholders of operating aspect in the sanctuary. The use of best available data, because the Pelagos Agreement has no vocation to implement specific monitoring programs, but it works to implement trilateral initiative in this field. And in addition, since management and conservation measures must be based on the best scientific and technical advice, the agreement is investing into the creation of a trilateral assessment on species and habitats based on all available data, collected under various contexts, for example, the Habitat Directive, the MSFD, the ACAM Survey Initiative, and by various organizations, so NGOs, associations, universities, research institutes. Of course, we should not say anything about the transboundary cooperation between member states because it is an intrinsic characteristic of the trilateral agreement. And finally, the cooperation with third countries to achieve the conservation goals. The PSSA is a recent example of cooperation with Spain, of the three countries with Spain. And it can be an example on how this can work in concrete, since the Pelagos National Focal Points and the Permanent Secretariat were fully involved in the whole negotiation processes. So the current situation in the sanctuary is such that much has been done over the last 2 decades in terms of research. Having reached a satisfactory level in terms of knowledge about species and populations of the sanctuary, the party's priority now is on assessing impact and identify mitigation action. And on the other hand, from a regulatory point of view, whereas for 20 years the parties developed a national regulatory focus, the priority now is to harmonize management measures and regulations. In terms of ongoing MSP-related processes at national and international level, despite what you could assume from adopted MSP national plans, there are that are referring to the Pelagos agreement. I'm sorry to say that so far there was not a real involvement at the agreement level, nor any discussion on a joint effort between Italy and France. However, some of the adopted actions in the French MSP Action Plan 2022-2027 are in line with action adopted in the Pelagos Management and Action Plan in the same years, for the same years. And finally, I would like to highlight that it will be important and useful to discuss these national plans to avoid duplicates, to increase complementarity, and to optimize the fundings, of course. Thank you very much. And sorry for these problems, technical problem. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you very much. It's okay, it was perfect afterwards. Thank you so much. And I'm sorry because, yes, I presented you a bit like if you were in the Italian team, but of course, we wanted to first to have the examples of France and Italy to afterwards hear about the Pelagos experience, because it's an area of cooperation between both. So thanks for the clarification. Gemma, do you want to say some words about the biodiversity initiative?
Yes, Pascale, thank you so much. And I do apologize for having had technical problems at the beginning when I was just recalling the cooperation among our research institutes. But now, after the interesting interventions of our colleagues, and we already know what is our the main aim of our cooperation, that meaning trying to facilitate the dialogue, the exchange and the sharing of best practices with the aim of focusing our research activities on Mediterranean issues and on transboundary issues. So on that aspect, I would like to pose some question to our to our participant, our colleagues. So first of all, thank you, Olivier, for your intervention. I was really interested in your overview, and you mentioned that in French waters have been established different areas of protection with different range ability to protect and manage the activities in the area. So I think I understood, or tell me if I didn't, that for example, a marine protected area is less powerful of a natural park. So a natural park would be more powerful. So the question is, how did you decide, and with on the basis of what criteria did you decide to establish an MPA somewhere or a natural park, considering this difference of powers related to the management of what are the criteria for choosing one or another? This was my, maybe I can make the question to everybody, and then they can answer. So we will have another tour for the. So I have another question for Andrea. Thank you for your intervention. I was particularly interested in what you mentioned, the particular sea sensitive area. That is an international, I guess, no? It's an international arrangement, and also sectoral, because it's just aiming at neighboring countries that are involved, and in order to prevent collision impacting on mammals, I think. So I wonder if we could, according to your experience, it could be possible to increase the number of common area of protection as this one, and if this would be even feasible in the French legal order through a regional cooperation. So through cooperation among regional authorities of the countries involved, or we always need to have an international agreement, as for example the Pelagos agreement that we have heard about, because for example for EU member states having same rules, we could even try to increase regional arrangements for protection of specific targets or protection of specific bordering areas. So I just wanted your opinion on this, and I would ask also to Andrea, actually the same question to Andrea on the national level of Italian. If Andrea, if you think that this kind of establishment, for example, of national parks that are transboundary among just regional authorities could be feasible. I guess you know also this practice that has been introduced by doctrine and has been rarely used, that is a marine peace park that have this kind of aim, of ambition. And last question to Costanza. I was thinking about the the object and the aim, the main aim of the agreement, that is to protect marine mammals. But I'm wondering if you are also looking at the implications, such as the protection of biodiversity and protection of marine genetic resources that could be useful in an overall vision of biodiversity, useful to protect the mammals. So just to have an idea, if you are even looking at the BBNG agreement as a sort of preferential, you know, state of protection of biodiversity, and these were my question to you, and thank you very much.
So I am the first to answer. That's it. Okay. There is several status of marine protected areas in France, and like in other countries, and even Pelagos is an MPA in the French law, because it's a SPAMI, and SPAMI are known as MPAs in the French law. So I will simplify quite a lot, saying that there is two kinds mainly. One, you are managing the area through the MPA, and the other one you are not. So the first one is marine parks and reserves. There is a committee for the management of the area. There is an authority in charge of the management of the area. And the other kind, there is, well, a management council and an action plan for some species and habitats or things like that, but it's not managing the area. So unfortunately for Pelagos, it's just managing an action plan for protecting marine mammals. And it's the same for Natura 2000 sites. And well, there is quite a lot of other status, but well, you can always classify them, I think, in one part or the other. So how are we doing? Actually, in 2007, it was the first national strategy for MPA. Before that, it was just a question of opportunities. Pelagos is the opportunity of a political agreement, for example. The creation of the National Park of Porcro with the marine part is just a political opportunity a long time ago, but nothing strategic. So it was the first time looking at the whole water under jurisdiction and thinking about, well, where are the important ecosystems? Where are the problems in terms of species and habitats? And again, I am simplifying, but let's say in the Gulf of Lion, on the rocky shore at the limit with Spain, it was known as a particular landscape, very important at sea, and already there was a small nature reserve there, and that's why it was said, okay, we want to study the possibility of having a marine nature park, because this area, this zone is very important. On the other hand, extending Natura 2000 at sea was just saying we have a list of species and habitats important, and we want to identify the Natura 2000 site for them. So you see, it was made at the same time, and that's why it was not so precise for Corsica, because there was too much issues in Corsica. So the strategy said there we need an additional analysis at local level, because we are not able to say where it could be interesting to have such or such status. So that's, I think, what I can say to try to answer your question. And I know you asked the question to Andrea, but sorry, Andrea. I just remember that at one time for Pelagos, we thought, and sorry, Costanza too, because perhaps you didn't know about this story, but at one time we thought about territorial cooperation European grouping. I don't know if it is the exact translation, but you know, this is the status of grouping at European level that can make territorial authorities, regional authorities. And we were thinking about PACA and the Liguria region and Corsica and Monaco, of course, to be partners in this grouping and to be in charge of managing Pelagos. It would be, but well, for diplomatic reasons, I won't say more. It was not considered to be an opportunity to do that.
Thank you so much, Olivier. Very clear. Thank you.
Gemma, my turn.
Maybe Andrea? Oh, sì, you're
please,
Andrea.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, I just answer about the second question about particular sea sensitive area. You asked me about the governance of this area. Yes, it is an international agreement. So it was launched by Italy, Spain, France, Monaco, and Italy. But it's been proposed at the IMO in December 2022. So it's been adopted, and now we face the objective to find some measures or recommendation, I would say, to especially avoid collision between ships and marine mammals. That's quite difficult, of course, because we are at the international level. So each party needs to accept the measures which would be proposed. So you can imagine it can take time. Just imagine that what we've done in Pelagos, you can imagine that would be quite difficult. But anyway, that's a big challenge, and that's the first time we do so in the Mediterranean. So anyway, we'll try to improve, and we'll see.
Thank you so much, Andre. Thanks. Andrea, do you have something to add to the
Well,
region?
I subscribe all words from Olivier, first of all, from the whole considerations from international parks to the national level. I want to be very pragmatic and quite difficult, despite, and actually the Pelagos experience is showing that quite difficult to establish and have properly managed international protected areas. By the way, I know there is a discussion ongoing on the use of the EGTC, let's say, tool in the Adriatic as well, as a way to establish transboundary marine protected areas. I don't know how effective it will be. But to be very pragmatic, I think that establishing a good national network, coordinating the countries in the selection of the areas, in the measures and the sea uses, it's going to be maybe more straightforward and effective if the choices are properly made, taking into account all the elements, habitat, distribution, connectivity, etc. And if there is a proper management, as we know, this is one of the key issues. I just want to be a bit more optimistic than Olivier on the use of the Natura 2000 tool. There's a quite significant difference in how Natura 2000 sites and national protected areas are managed, for sure. But I think that properly managed, properly established And we in Italy do not have many Natura 2000 marine areas, in fact. But properly established Natura 2000 sites, targeting and recognizing the habitats and target species to be protected, and then establishing conservation measures and enforcing these conservation measures could be, I think it could work, and I would very much hope that even under the MSP umbrella, this is something that is in fact in place, ongoing, and that will happen in the near future, also as part of the biodiversity strategy pledges that Italy is expressing.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Thanks. Costanza.
Thank you very much, Gemma. Yes, so absolutely the Pelagos agreement is about the protection of marine mammals and their habitat. This is what is mentioned in the original text of the agreement. So their habitat, it means also the environment, and more in general the biodiversity of the area, because as we all know, the Pelagos agreement is a feeding spot for marine mammals, but they are regularly observed in the area in spring and in summer, because of the particular biodiversity of the sanctuary. So the action of the parties to the agreement is an action, is a more general action about the protection of the biodiversity of the area and of the habitat of marine mammals. So absolutely, it's very different. I don't know if during my presentation you saw the slide about the complex ecosystem of the sanctuary. It's not only about marine mammals. Marine mammals are the top of the chain. They are umbrella species, but even in the recognition of the SPEMI status of the agreement, we talk about an extraordinary biodiversity of the Pelagos sanctuary. And as for your question about BBNJ, of course, I mean, I cannot express myself on behalf of the parties on this point, but I think that the parties to the agreement are looking to the BBNJ negotiation with the great interest, and it is a good, very astonishing example, which is something that could be even taking into account for the future of the Pelagos agreement. Who knows?
Thank you, Costanza. So I don't know if there are any other questions. Pascale?
Yes, so there was a question from a colleague who had to left. Wissam Sedik, he's doing his PhD about marine spatial planning in the Mediterranean Sea. So he's quite involved in the question. He asked that the MSP directive provides that the European countries should cooperate to coordinate their national MSP. So one of you mentioned it, when they share a marine area. He asked if there are some initiatives between present actors in that sense, or is it something that will come maybe later?
I can give a first answer. There has been regular meetings between French, Italian, and Spanish authorities, and Monaco also was invited. So we know each other. I'm talking about the state administration. They know each other's. They are not deciding together. There has been these opportunities of European funding for projects, and the institutions in the different countries, we are in several projects together. So that there is what we say, a community of practice, really strong among us. But well, formally, I would say the French and Spanish ask the Italian what they think about their project of marine spatial planning, etc. Italy is asking France and Spain. We are giving some advice, but I think until now it's really too difficult to imagine a common decision. So it will come, and because we are talking about MPA and MSP, for example, in the comments that France made on the Italian project, there was the question of vocation that should be on biodiversity protection, where we already have in common, for example, Pelagos as a common initiative. So yes, nature protection could be one aspect that help in co-decision for some questions at the frontier between the countries.
Thank you very much. Do you want to add something, Andrea or Costanza?
Well, not really fully agree with what Olivier said, just to stress the importance of the two parallel pathways, the formal one, the dialogue between administrations, the different administrations involved, and the informal one fed by projects, EU projects. That is very important, just to, you know, prepare the form and feed the formal dialogue then.
Okay, thank you very much. There is one person having a question in the public. You can.
Yes, thank you everybody for your presentation. I am Adele and I work for the Surfrider Foundation Europe. I work on the comparative study on MPAs and MSP. And I have a question for Andrea, because you spoke about the MSP for Bio program. And I was wondering how can this program can interfere in public policies, and if civil society can be can make some comments on the scenario that you have mentioned. I don't know if it's clear or not.
Yeah, I try to answer briefly.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, first of all, let me correct you a bit. The name of the project I was mentioning in my presentation is MSP for Biodiversity. You said MSP for Bio, and the fact is that there is an MSP for Bio project, which is an Horizon Europe project, and we, and together with Cerema and other colleagues, are in fact partners of this. So we Italians, we are not very original in using the name MSP for Biodiversity, but this is how it went. Anyway, nevertheless, I mean, the title is perfectly, targeting the objective of the process, biodiversity mainstreaming in MSP. Then your question, we wanted to strictly connect this project, that is a research project, to the national policy stream. This project is meant to directly serve the improvement of the national MSP plans on their, let's say, biodiversity content. And this was made on purpose. Again, I'd like to underline the importance of connecting the, let's say, formal stream with the informal, maybe research-driven process. And secondly, you are asking about stakeholder engagement, for sure. In this scenario building and scenario analysis process that is quite well structured through a specific methodology we design. There are moments where stakeholders will be discussing with us, with the teams of experts that we established on the 3 areas, on the scenarios first, and on the analysis of the scenario. So pros and cons from the environmental, the social, and the economic perspective of those imaginaries, potential future evolution of sea uses and conservation system in the area. So we'll be happy if you follow us in the coming months and years on this, which is a quite challenging task.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't hesitate if you have other questions in the public. Maybe I keep in mind maybe 2 big challenges. One is mainstreaming biodiversity, and the other is consultation and concertation at the local level, but also with a bigger picture, maybe. Do you want to add something about those challenges, or we already talked a lot during 1 hour and a half, so maybe we can also finish on this.
Pascale, very good with your final words. Very much agree. And let me take the opportunity to thank you and thank Gemma again for this invitation and the nice discussion, and all the colleagues, of course.
Yes, thank you again, and I think it was quite a good idea to give the opportunity to say that MPA and MSP are not separate things, as Andrea said in his presentation.
Yeah, thank you so much. For me, it's much more clear than before, and it's still very complex to bring them together, but yeah, of course, it's necessary.
So thank you so much to everybody. Maybe we can see you on our next webinar. We will take you informed about.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you
Bye.
very much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.